Welcome to the final act of a tragedy that has been playing out for decades. You knew them when they were in their prime, charismatic, seductive, and insatiable. They moved through life like a shark in a tank of minnows, consuming people, discarding hearts, and collecting bodies. They wore their promiscuity like a badge of honor, treating intimacy as a cheap commodity to be traded for validation. They made you feel replaceable, telling you explicitly or implicitly that there was always someone else, someone younger, someone hotter waiting in line. You watched them age with a sense of dread, wondering if they would ever pay for the wreckage they left behind. Today, we answer that question. We are going to look at the curse that befalls the aging narcissist who spent a lifetime chasing the high of free, transactional sex. You see, the narcissist believed they had cheated the system. They believed that by avoiding commitment and indulging in endless, transient encounters, they were winning. They thought they were the ultimate player, forever young, forever desirable. But time is the one judge that cannot be gaslit. Time is the one creditor that always collects its debt. And for the narcissist who built their self-worth on sexual conquest, the debt is catastrophic. We are not talking about a peaceful retirement surrounded by loving grandchildren. We are talking about a descent into a specific kind of hell, a hell of irrelevance, repulsion, and profound loneliness. The haunting question you have asked yourself is, are they happy? You see them trying to dress like they are 20 years younger, prowling the same old hunting grounds, maybe even flashing a new, naive partner on social media. It looks like the party never ended. But I am here to strip away the filter. The party did end, a long time ago. What you are seeing now is the desperate afterparty of a ghost. They are haunted by their own fading reflection. The curse of a life spent collecting bodies is that when the body fails, you are left with absolutely nothing. No depth. No connection. No legacy. Just a list of names they can barely remember. We are going to expose the Dorian Gray effect that destroys the aging somatic narcissist. They spent their youth weaponizing their sexuality. It was their primary tool for manipulation and supply. But sexuality is a depreciating asset. As they age, the free sex they felt entitled to becomes expensive. It costs them their dignity. It costs them their money. It costs them their sanity. The easy validation dries up, and they are left scratching at the dirt, wondering why the world no longer looks at them with desire, but with pity, or worse, with creeped-out disgust. This video is going to be heavy. We are going to walk through the silent, empty house of the aging predator. We will look at the panic that sets in when the charm stops working. We will examine the pathetic attempts to buy what they used to get for free. You have likely cried rivers of tears over their infidelity and their callousness. Now, you will see that while you were building a soul, they were digging a hole. And now, in their twilight years, they are forced to lie in it, alone, cold, and hungry for a touch that no one wants to give them. The curse of the flesh is real. By prioritizing the physical over the emotional for decades, they have atrophied their ability to connect. Now that they need care, companionship, and genuine love, they find themselves chemically castrated by their own lifestyle. They cannot love. They can only consume. But an old predator cannot hunt. They are reduced to scavengers, feeding on scraps, bitter that the feast is over. This is not karma. This is the logical consequence of a life lived without a heart. You might imagine them laughing with their latest supply, but let me tell you what is happening behind the closed doors. They are staring in the mirror, pulling at loose skin, dyeing thinning hair, and terrified of the silence. The freedom they bragged about, the freedom to sleep with anyone, the freedom from attachment, has mutated into a prison of isolation. They are free, yes. Free of love. Free of family. Free of anyone who actually gives a damn if they wake up in the morning. We are going to dissect the transition from player to predator to pest. In their youth, they were the player. In their middle age, they became the predator. Now, in old age, they are viewed by society as the pest, the creepy old man or woman at the bar who doesn't know when to go home. The world has moved on. The sexual marketplace has evolved. And they are left holding a currency that is no longer legal tender. This isn't just about losing looks, it's about losing the false self. Their entire identity was wrapped up in being desirable. Without that, who are they? They don't know. They never took the time to find out. They are empty shells rattling in the wind. The panic you sense in them is the realization that they wasted their life chasing a sensation that lasts seconds, ignoring the connections that last a lifetime. Prepare yourself. We are going to look at the ugly, unvarnished truth of the aging narcissist's bedroom. It is a place of desperation, pills, payments, and pornography. By the end of this video, you will not feel envy. You will feel a deep, chilling relief that you are not them. Let's expose the curse. To understand this curse, you must understand somatic narcissism. For this type of narcissist, their body is their god. Their self-worth is entirely calculated by their sexual market value. Every conquest was a deposit in the bank of their ego. Free sex, meaning promiscuity, affairs, one-night stands, wasn't about intimacy, it was about counting. They were counting how many people wanted them to prove they existed. Now, the math doesn't work. The account is overdrawn. The somatic narcissist ages worse than any other type because they have no other foundation to stand on. We must discuss the concept of the void. The narcissist has a black hole inside them where a soul should be. For years, they threw bodies into this void to fill it up. Sex was the temporary plug. The dopamine rush of a new conquest numbed the pain of their emptiness. But as they age, the ability to secure new conquests diminishes. The plug is removed. The void opens up, wider and darker than ever. They are forced to stare into their own nothingness without the distraction of the chase. This causes a psychological implosion. They suffer from pathological envy of the youth. When they look at young people now, they don't just feel nostalgia, they feel a murderous rage. They hate the youth for having what they squandered. They hate the young for being beautiful, for being firm, for being relevant. This envy turns them bitter. They become the grumpy, judgmental elder who criticizes the younger generation's morality, projecting their own shame onto the world. They hate the mirror because it reminds them that they have been evicted from the garden of earthly delights. Their addiction to novelty has destroyed their brain's reward system. Because they spent decades chasing the new, they are incapable of finding peace in the familiar. An aging spouse or a long-term partner bores them to death. But here is the curse. They are now too old to attract the new. They are trapped in a limbo of boredom. They crave the high of a stranger's touch, but strangers are no longer interested. They are addicts cut off from their supply, shaking and sweating in a state of permanent withdrawal. Objectification turns inward. They spent their lives treating others as objects, pieces of meat to be consumed. Now, the tables have turned. They view themselves as a broken object. A narcissist does not have self-compassion. They judge themselves with the same cruel standards they used on you. They look at their aging body with disgust. They loathe their own wrinkles, their own weakness. They become their own abuser, bullying themselves for the crime of being human and mortal. The fear of death is magnified by their lifestyle. For someone who lives for the flesh, the decay of the flesh is the ultimate terror. They have no spiritual depth to comfort them. They have no deep family bonds to sustain them. They only believe in the physical world, and the physical world is failing them. They treat aging not as a natural process, but as a personal insult. They are furious at God or the universe for allowing them to wither. This rage makes them impossible to be around. They experience supply scarcity. In their prime, supply was abundant. It was a buffet. Now, it is a famine. They have to work 10 times harder for 1/10 of the attention. This creates a desperation that reeks. People can smell it. Younger people can sense the predatory, desperate energy of an aging narcissist and they recoil. This rejection triggers intense narcissistic injury. Every rejection is a stab wound to their fragile ego, and they are bleeding out. The transactional mindset backfires. They taught everyone around them that relationships are transactional. I give you sex, money, you give me validation. Now that they can't offer sex appeal, the transaction fails. People leave. The only people who stay are those who are being paid, nurses, escorts, or sycophants hoping for an inheritance. They are surrounded by mercenaries because they never cultivated loyalty. They are alone in a room full of people who are checking their watches. Sexual dysphoria becomes their daily reality. For the male narcissist, erectile dysfunction is a psychological catastrophe. It strikes at the core of his identity. For the female narcissist, menopause and the loss of the male gaze feels like invisibility. They try to compensate with surgery, with pills, with increasingly deviant behavior, but nothing restores the feeling of natural, effortless power they once had. They are fighting a war against biology, and biology always wins. Ultimately, they are trapped in the Peter Pan syndrome gone wrong. Peter Pan is charming when he is a boy. He is pathetic when he is a balding, paunchy old man wearing skinny jeans and hitting on college students. The psychological development they arrested at age 15 is now glaringly obvious. They are emotionally toddlers in the bodies of seniors. It is a grotesque juxtaposition that repels anyone with emotional maturity. The turning point arrives when the invisible line is crossed. There comes a day when the narcissist walks into a room, a bar, a party, a social gathering, and realizes they are invisible. No heads turn. No one smiles. The bartender serves the younger people first. The free sex signals they are sending out are not being picked up, they are being ignored. The realization hits them like a sledgehammer: I am no longer a player in this game. The silence of their irrelevance is deafening. This triggers the desperate pivot. Panic sets in. They try to buy their way back in. This is when you see the sugar daddy or sugar mama phase aggressively take over. They realize that if they can't get sex for free with their looks, they must pay for it with their wallet. They start renting intimacy. But deep down, they know it's a sham. They know the person is only touching them for the cash. This knowledge eats away at their narcissism. It confirms that they are inherently worthless without their props. The plastic surgery disaster often happens here. In a frantic attempt to reverse time, they go under the knife. But they don't do it gracefully. They do it excessively. They pull their face too tight. They fill their lips too much. They end up looking uncanny, plastic, and bizarre. They become a caricature of themselves. Instead of looking younger, they look like monsters trying to wear a human mask. The outside now matches the distortion on the inside. They start hunting in the gutters. Since quality partners reject them, they lower their standards. They start preying on the vulnerable, the addicted, the broken, or the very young and naive who don't know better. They scrape the bottom of the barrel just to find someone who will reflect their grandiosity. The king or queen is now holding court in a dive bar, surrounded by people they secretly despise, just to feel like the smartest person in the room. The rage spirals become frequent. The frustration of their sexual decline manifests as anger. They scream at waitstaff. They abuse their elderly spouses, if they haven't been discarded. They pick fights with their children. They are like a wounded animal, lashing out at everything because they are in pain. The pain is the death of their ego. They are mourning themselves while they are still alive, and they want everyone else to be miserable too. They attempt to hoover old supply. This is why you might get a text after 20 years. Hey, thinking of you. They are circling back to the archives because the new market is closed to them. They are hoping you have forgotten the abuse. They are hoping you are desperate. They want to extract one last drop of juice from an old lemon. When you reject them, and you must, it shatters them. It confirms that even their history has rejected them. The pornography addiction escalates to disturbing levels. Without real-world validation, they retreat into the digital world. They consume darker, more extreme content to get a dopamine hit. They spend their nights alone, bathed in the blue light of a screen, engaging in a solitary, shameful loop of arousal and self-loathing. The great lover is reduced to a lonely voyeur. The health crisis exposes their isolation. When they inevitably get sick or fall, who is there? The one-night stands aren't there. The affair partners aren't there. The victims they discarded aren't there. They lie in the hospital bed, scrolling through a phone full of contacts, realizing there is no one to call. The nurses treat them clinically, not adoringly. The loss of special treatment drives them insane. They become the creep. The label shifts permanently. Society stops viewing them as eccentric and starts viewing them as predatory or gross. Their flirtatious comments, which used to be welcomed, are now met with uncomfortable silences or calls to HR. They are ostracized from the tribe because they refuse to evolve into the role of the elder. They insisted on remaining the lover, and now they are the outcast. The dramatic shift is the total loss of dignity. They end up chasing people who are running away from them. They beg. They bribe. They whine. The mask of the cool, detached narcissist falls off, revealing a pathetic, needy child who is terrified of sleeping alone. The predator has become the beggar. The collapse is slow, cold, and quiet. It is the gray rock of the universe against the narcissist. They end up in a house that is too big, filled with silence. The trophies of their sexual conquests, the photos, the memories, turn into instruments of torture. They look at pictures of their youth and weep, not for the time lost, but for the power lost. They are trapped in a museum of their own history, and they are the only visitor. Their children, if they have them, often go no contact. The children remember the neglect. They remember the parent who was always out chasing tail, instead of being at the soccer game. Now that the parent is old and needs help, the children are gone. The narcissist cries abandonment, playing the victim, oblivious to the fact that they abandoned their children decades ago for the pursuit of pleasure. They die waiting for a visit that never comes. Financial ruin often follows the somatic curse. Maintaining the lifestyle of a player is expensive. Alimony, settlements, plastic surgery, gifts for sugar babies, club memberships, it drains the accounts. They often enter old age broke, having squandered their resources on their image. They end up in state-run facilities, stripped of the luxury they believed was their birthright. They become bitter historians. They trap anyone who will listen, a trapped neighbor, a caregiver, and recount their glory days. I could have anyone I wanted. Women and men used to line up for me. They tell these stories on a loop, trying to convince the listener, and themselves, that they were legends. The listener just nods, checking the time, pitying the delusional old soul. The paranoia sets in. Isolated and angry, they begin to believe the world is conspiring against them. They think the nurses are stealing from them. They think their neighbors are laughing at them. The brain that was once used to plot seductions is now used to plot conspiracies. The mental energy rots and turns toxic. Somatic decay is their personal hell. For a narcissist, incontinence, frailty, or dependency is not just a medical issue, it is a spiritual crisis. To be wiped, to be fed, to be helped out of a chair, this destroys them. They treat caregivers abusively because the caregiver represents their helplessness. They scream at the hands that feed them because they hate needing to be fed. The final discard happens to them. The world discards them. They are no longer relevant. New generations rise up who don't know who they are and don't care. They fade into the background noise of humanity. For a narcissist who needs to be the main character, becoming an extra is a fate worse than death. They are deleted from the cultural script. They die a stranger's death. Often, the somatic narcissist dies surrounded by strangers. Paid staff. Distant relatives waiting for a check. There is no weeping widow. There is no heartbroken husband. There is just the beep of the monitor and the rustle of paperwork. The intimacy they avoided all their life is notably absent at their deathbed. The legacy of trauma is all they leave behind. They don't leave a legacy of love. They leave a trail of damaged people who are in therapy trying to recover from them. Their funeral is often awkward, sparsely attended, or filled with people who are secretly relieved. The eulogies are vague because there is nothing deep to say. He lived life on his own terms is code for he was selfish until the end. Ultimately, the curse is hollowness. They spent a lifetime eating the icing and throwing away the cake. Now, they are starving. They realize, too late, that free sex was the most expensive thing they ever bought, because the price was their soul. So, what is the final truth you must internalize to heal from the damage they caused you? It is this: you were not the one who lost out. You thought they were winning because they were having fun while you were crying. But they were not having fun, they were numbing pain. They were running a race against their own mortality, and they lost. You built a life of substance. They built a life of sensation. Substance lasts. Sensation evaporates. You must realize that their freedom was a cage. The ability to sleep with anyone meant they belonged to no one. They were drifters in the landscape of the heart. You, with your capacity to love, to commit, to feel pain and joy deeply, you are the one who is truly free. You are free to connect. They are imprisoned in their own skin. Do not envy their old age. Do not look at their social media and think they are happy. Look closer. Look at the eyes. The eyes of an aging somatic narcissist are the saddest things on earth. They are hungry ghosts. They are screaming for food that no longer exists. Pity them, or better yet, feel nothing for them. The justice you seek has already been served. It is served every morning when they wake up alone. It is served every time they look in the mirror and see the stranger staring back. It is served by the silence of their phone. The universe has balanced the scales. They prioritize the body, so they are left with only the body, and the body is failing. You are the survivor. You have the capacity to age with grace. Aging with grace comes from wisdom, from love, from acceptance. The narcissist has none of these. They age with rage. You age with peace. That is your victory. Stop waiting for an apology. The apology will never come because they cannot admit they were wrong. If they admitted they were wrong, they would have to admit their entire life was a waste. They will take their delusion to the grave. Let them. You don't need their apology to be whole. Walk away from the spectacle of their decline. It is not your job to nurse them. It is not your job to save them from the hell they built. They fired you as a partner years ago. Do not rehire yourself as a caretaker. Let them sit in the mess they made. Your revenge is your happiness. Your revenge is living a life full of deep, messy, real connections. Your revenge is being able to hold someone's hand and feel love, not just a dopamine hit. You have the real gold. They just have the glitter. Let the narcissist fade into the oblivion of their own making. Let them be the creep at the bar. Let them be the lonely figure in the window. You have a sun to walk towards. The curse is real, and it is absolute. They chose the flesh, and to dust they shall return, unloved and unknown. You chose the heart, and your heart will beat forever. You are free.